Yeah, so this song is Babylon System by Bob Marley. And he's talking about the system being the oppressor and the system being the vampire. So think about that when you see all these movies about vampirism out there, movies and TV shows, and it's just a gigantic element of pop culture, vampires. And another similar theme is zombies. So for people who are awake out there, and by that I mean people who think for themselves, I mean that's pretty much what it is that we're born into this matrix, we're born into this mass media coma where we're never taught to think for ourselves, and we're actually taught to let our masters think for us, and to let that be the dominant thought, and to not ever combat that dominant social collectivist thought, to never go against it or stand up. It's just conform, obey, conform, obey, conform, obey, like you see in the movie They Live, when the man puts on the glasses and he can see through all the advertising and the mass media marketing and the subliminal and psychological message that are being suggested to him beyond what is seen in the three-dimensional physical or matrix reality. All right, so I'm actually just about to return this book. It's real late, but for the library at least. But I wanted to share this before I go. In Paracelsian psychology, the vampire always plays an interesting role. There seems to be an analogy with what might be termed collective manias. To become a vampire, we must first be the victim of a vampire. This evil creature can function only at night and must sleep forever in its own earth. Many psychological ailments seem to be communicated by the pressures of one person adversely influencing the life of another. We have great psychoses shared by the multitudes of persons, such as fear of war, crime, sickness, poverty, and death. Once we have been attacked by these fears, we become like them. We perpetuate negative thought and emotion forms, preserving our own bad habits by causing others to share them. Destructive thought patterns therefore organize into groups, and in each of these groups there are millions of persons exemplifying the same destructive and morbid tendencies. These, according to Paracelsus, result in collective thought forms, which will become attached to persons who make themselves available through a basic kind of negation. The individual then simply becomes receptive to the pressures of his world, allows these pressures to move in until he finally becomes another unit in the pressure group, adding his negative influence to the already tragic condition. In the Paracelsian doctrine, there is, however, a solid sense of justice. In order to be a victim of elementaries of any kind, the individual must potentially be potentially given to excessive attitudes or destructive habits. The kindly person, fully occupied in useful endeavors, will not open his nature to infection or contagion, which means something that's contagious. Open yourself to something that's contagious. Actually, the elementary is closed, associated with imagination, which can be a distorting and deforming force in the life of the individual. In the aloneness of his private living, the melancholy person becomes filled with self-pity, deludes himself, convinces his mind that he is the victim of injury or neglect, and finally prepares his nature for the development of one of these psychic entities. Recovery must therefore be a reversal process in which faith, friendship, understanding, tolerance, and good humor break the vicious circle and deprive the obsession of its needed nutrition. Okay, so what Paracelsus philosophizes about often is elementaries, which are spiritual, like pseudo-psychological, spiritual, elemental beings that are birthed into being through human thought forms, through human energy and emotional fields. The fact that he's talking about the human mind is so powerful that, like, we essentially birth our own demons. So, he goes in. I'll also touch on this part actually real quick. Thus, a person living an apparently respectable life but inwardly filled with hatreds, morbid emotion, and destructive attitudes, is creating another being within his own magnetic field, a kind of second and negative self. This is suggested in the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In the Paracelsian period of human activity, it was believed that certain persons had attendant demons or familiar spirits who served their bidding for a time, and then claimed the immortal soul of the magician. This is the Mephisto, who attached himself to Faust as a result of what has been called the Faustian complex. The Mephisto is ever whispering in our ear that we may do as we please regardless of consequences and agree because we desire to agree. But if we follow this course and listen to the demoniacal voice, our satanic imp will ultimately carry us away to his own infernal region. So there, if you stayed with me there for long enough, I know people's attention spans are short. This voice will ultimately carry us away to our own infernal region. And I'm not suggesting eternal hell or damnation at all. I don't think that's a apparent reality. But I am suggesting that hell could be right here on this earth for you in your own perpetual state of fear or anger or whatever negative or negative energy or emotional field we bring into being. Again, he says, destructive emotions or hatreds, therefore, can never escape us. But having been generated and allowed to flow into the energy field, they return to us again in the form of various disasters. The hate we turn upon another strengthens only the power to hate in ourselves. For this reason, the doctrine is soundly ethical. Our own evil destroys us, usually so slowly and mysteriously that we do not understand the procedure. Let me say that again. Our own evil destroys us, usually so slowly and mysteriously that we do not understand the procedure. We are reminded always that evil is its own punishment, even as good is its own greatest reward. Again, we are reminded always that evil is its own punishment, even as good is its own greatest reward. Okay? So, it's like, that's literal karma for you. It's not like New Agey or like over-the-top Eastern karma where like karma is this law that you're enslaved to. But that's karma, what I just read there. Our own evil destroys us, usually so slowly and mysteriously that we do not understand the procedure. We're reminded always that evil is its own punishment, even as good is its own greatest reward. Okay? It's pretty huge there. Again, but I also wanted to make this point when they talk about that satanic imp, okay, and attendant demons and familiar spirits who serve the bidding for a time when they claim the immortal soul of the magician. So we see a lot of that in the pop music industry. All these musicians who said they made it, and then they're always talking about selling their souls. Maybe they literally did, or maybe they literally did not. I'd love to hear your opinions on that, by the way. Maybe they did or did not physically sell their soul, but this is what they're talking about. Maybe by instituting certain energy patterns into their music videos, they are in a way just selling their soul energetically or hypothetically anyway. That's what you see with the triangle. Or like rappers say, put your motherfucking hands up and give me your goddamn energy, So there's a couple of points that I wanted to make. It's just, I showed this picture in the beginning, but I just want to show it again. It's a good depiction right there, if I can get it up on the camera, right there, of that vampire, that negative energy walking around with the human being, attending his being. So, basically, if anyone knows me on here, I talk a lot about energy, and sorry I haven't made a video in a long time. I'm getting back to it now. Just got a camera. Had a defective computer before that. But if anyone knows me, I talk a lot about energy. And so this is what it is that this is the power of actually negative emotions and what they do. Here's another way to surmise it here. Good thoughts, good words, and good deeds help to maintain health or restore it if it has been lost. Recognizing the importance of a man's spiritual nature, Paracelsus clearly states that it is according to the will of nature that each human being shall in time become his own physician. Again, Paracelsus clearly states that it is according to the will of nature that each human being shall in time become his own physician. We depend upon others because we lack wisdom and understanding. If another man can attain to the knowledge by which he can assist our recovery, we may likewise attend to that knowledge. Will attain to that knowledge. While it requires much training and specialized research to restore the sick, preventative medicine is not nearly so complicated. While there may always be need for scientific guidance, such need will be the exception rather than the rule. By the integration of his life around constructive and natural procedures, the average person will enjoy a greater measure of good health than he at present regards as possible. It was the opinion of von Hohenheim that the adverse effects of tension or stress may first be noted in those bodily functions associated with digestion, assimilation, and excretion. If these processes are disrupted, the body becomes toxic and the individual slowly poisons himself. Toxin, in turn, contributes to the problem of obstruction. If this is permitted to continue without adequate correction, the flow of energy is impeded. The vital essence of life moves through the body not only by way of the physical structure, but by means of a vital etheric counterpart, which is called the vital vehicle. So, yeah, I mean, that's just a bunch of other ways of putting kind of the same thing that I'm just trying to touch on and give people as much information out of this book as I can before I give it back. Here's another point. Modern thinking, therefore, sheds light upon the concept of elementaries extending beyond the basic research of Paracelsus. We observe today the tremendous increase in mental pathology. We know that attitudes which become more and more fixed lead to what science calls a state of obsession. Paracelsus used the term obsession to signify possession by an entity. Today the term, and again, obsession, possession, those words are pretty similar there. Today the term is used to signify possession by an abnormal attitude. What is the fact of this matter? It is possible that the abnormal attitude has gradually become an entity. We may prefer not to assume such a belief, but how can we completely explain the peculiar and continuous undermining the consciousness and morality of a human being? That's huge right there. I'm going to continue that in a second, but that's what it is. It's all like, we all walk around, there's so many negative people, and there totally is this overwhelming feeling of overbearing cynicism, cynics in our society. Yeah, I said cynicism for all the cynics in our society. And that's the overwhelming emotion. And there's so much negative energy out there, and industrialization promotes this, and the Millennial Project promotes this, and the Agenda 21 promotes this, and getting everyone into the big cities promotes this, because when we live so close to people, we don't trust our neighbors. That's an ancient fact, that the way to separate people and keep people separate is actually moving their quarters, their homes and everything too close together. So, what happened to brotherly love? I live in Philadelphia, but this certainly isn't the city of brotherly love anymore. So it's like there's just so many different things you can look at, but it's people are overworked. They're living physically and literally like slaves.
Make sure you're there. This year's Columbus Day Mattress Spectacular. Get 36 months special financing and save up to 60%, plus get an extra 10% off and free delivery. This is eye-opening. This is Sears.
Yeah, sorry, that's adware.
Discussion? No.